Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We are in King's Cross.
Cold drops. That's what it's called. King's Cross Cold Drops.
Cold Drop Yards. It's been.
All right, we have to go. Yeah, Cold Drops are the NW17.
Not NW17. Anyway, it looks like it's going to rain. As you can see, the big clouds passing here.
Yeah, it took a while to settle to turn this on.
Yes. We're just having a juice so we can sit under the canopy here. So if it does start raining, we're a little bit outside of the canopy. Theoretically, we won't get too wet. But we're going to read the Bhagavatam because that's what we're here to do.
Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm sitting next to the flowers, but that means there's bees.
There's a bee behind me.
There's a bee. Your bee. BB.
Text 31. Egoism in the mode of passion produces...
Wait a minute, which text?
31.
No, we're on 33. Last time we read from the devices. Text 33. And that's a fact, Jack.
Persons who are learned and who have no true knowledge define sound as that which conveys the idea of an object, indicates the presence of a speaker screened from our view, and constitutes the subtle form of ether. Purport. It is very clear herein that as soon as we speak of hearing, there must be a speaker. Without a speaker, there is no question of hearing. Therefore, the Vedic knowledge, which is known as Shruti, or that which is received by hearing, is also called Apurusa. Apurusa means not spoken by any person materially created. It is stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Tene Brahma Rida. The sound of Brahman or Veda was first impregnated into the heart of Brahma, the original learned man, Adhikavaya. How did he become learned? Whenever there is learning, there must be a speaker and the process of hearing. But Brahma was the first created being. Who spoke to him? Since no one was there, who was the spiritual master to give knowledge? He was the only living creature. Therefore, the Vedic knowledge was imparted within his heart by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated within everyone as Paramatma. Vedic knowledge is understood to be spoken by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is free from the defects of material understanding. Material understanding is defective. If we hear something from the conditioned soul, it is full of defects. All material and mundane information is tainted by illusion, error, cheating, and imperfection of the senses. Because Vedic knowledge was imparted by the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to material creation, it is perfect. If we receive that Vedic knowledge from Brahma in disciplic succession, then we receive perfect knowledge.
Getting cold?
No. Rescuing my coat from... I don't want to put that jacket on and then the bumblebees inside. That's exactly what would happen. So I'm moving it where I can see it.
Okay. Any thoughts on the wonderful purport you just read?
Well, I was going to say something, but you diverted to the jacket.
This is a life.
So regarding the purport, it's saying that we have to have perfect knowledge, and that's received through the Vedas. So while I was reading it, I was thinking like when I was at university or this, we were encouraged, you're given a book list at the beginning of each semester. These are for this, get these, but they're expensive books as well, and you have to purchase them because they were from particular authors, academic authors that were considered knowledgeable in the field that we were going to be taught and studying. So it wasn't like, this is the topic, go and get the, because that same topic, you could get so many books on some whatever. You could just go on like Wikipedia. I don't think it existed when I was at uni, but whatever. But so in every aspect of life, you try to get that. Like if you're going to buy something, you research and try to get that from the top source, or even if it's just like a washing machine or whatever, something mundane, like a pair of running socks, whatever. I'm going to research it, I'm going to find out. So then, but people do get funny, like, what is this book of knowledge, when you try to distribute it or try to speak to people. Yeah, but it's about the absolute truth. It's about something that's beyond this material world and our material senses. So we're just explaining to you that you may have to dig deeper and look elsewhere, places where the knowledge isn't coming from a source that you understand. To get specific knowledge. Do you understand what I'm saying? To get specific knowledge.
If you understand, say yes. Comments below. If you don't, please say no, we didn't get that.
I'll delete those comments. No, joking. I wouldn't do that. But my point is, you have to go to the right source, the perfect source, to get the perfect knowledge. And we do that in everyday life. That's my point. Anyway, I need a new washing machine. My oven's not working at the moment, so I need to source that out,
I think I was supposed to sort that out.
Yeah, anyway.
Okay, we're kind of really diverting. I'm not sure we ever got to the point. But really powerful point here is, of course, because I'm going to make it, is that, again, we're in the process of creation. And they're talking about sound. And sound conveys an idea of an object. When we just think about it, it's like, just imagine when you speak, like she was just speaking, and as soon as she talked about the washing machine, you pictured a washing machine. She said the oven, you picture your oven. She mentioned different things, a book of knowledge. As we speak, then sound conveys the idea of an object. And that indicates this speaker. So it's really powerful, because this principle of hearing and chanting are so synonymous, they can't really be separated. Shravanam and Kirtanam. And also, it says, without a speaker, there is no question of hearing. What do you hear when there isn't anything? And Prabhupada mentions Lord Brahma in the purport, and how he was the first, the Adi Kaviye. He's the first created being. But he had to hear from someone, and who did he hear from? Apurusha. Apurusha means the bee. No, it doesn't mean the bee. Apurusha means that person who's not an ordinary person, is not affected by the three modes of material nature, is divinity, that which is sublime. So that's my thoughts on it. Any comments on that?
No.
Read on.
I read on.
Starting to rain.
Yeah.
Every word we hear has a meaning behind it. As soon as we hear the word water, there is a substance, water, behind the word. Similarly, as soon as we hear the word God, there is a meaning to it. If we receive that meaning and explanation of God from God Himself, then it is perfect. But if we if we speculate about the meaning of God, it is imperfect. Bhagavad Gita, which is the science of God, is spoken by the personality of Godhead Himself. This is perfect knowledge. Mental speculators, or so-called philosophers who are researching what is actually God, will never understand the nature of God. The science of God has to be understood in the disciplic succession from Brahma, who was first instructed about knowledge of God by God Himself. We can understand the knowledge of God by hearing Bhagavad Gita from a person authorized in the disciplic succession. So hopefully that all makes sense. So yeah, every word has an object behind it, and When you speak that word, then that object is referred to. So if we want to understand something, if we want to understand who God is, we have to hear from God, from the person himself. So Bhagavad Gita gives us that opportunity.
When we speak of seeing, there must be form. By our sense perception, the beginning experience is the sky. Sky is the beginning of form, and from the sky other forms emanate. The objects of knowledge and sense perception begin therefore from the sky. The knowledge I'm getting from the sky behind me is the sun's gone, it's a little bit cold, and it's going to rain.
That's right.
I hope you lot, everyone, you lot, I hope the dear viewers were more attentive than look.
Sorry, I just remembered that question, so I want to make sure I answered the question at the end of this.
Alright, let's move on.
What did you say though?
What?
Therefore the objects of knowledge and sense perception begin from the sky.
Yeah, but you'll have to watch the vlog if you want to see what I said.
Okay, text 34. The activities and characteristics of the ethereal element can be observed as the accommodation of room for the external and internal existence of all living entities, namely the field of activities of the vital air, the senses, and the mind. That's quite confusing. I would probably have to read that 3 or 4 times to really grasp it. This is the nature of the Bhagavatam sometimes. But let's read the purport, because
Yes.
my wife will get upset if I start trying to read it and understand
Well, the
it.
purport explains the verse. That's what it's there for.
Okay, so here we go. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
The mind, the senses, and the vital force or living entity have forms, although they are not visible to the naked eye. Okay. The mind has form, the senses, the vital force. Okay. Form rests in subtle existence in the sky, and internally it is perceived as the veins within the body and the circulation of the vital air. Externally, there are invisible forms of sense objects. The production of the invisible sense objects is the external activity of the ethereal element, and the circulation of vital air and blood is its internal activity. That excuse me. That subtle form exists in the ether. That subtle forms exist in the ether has been proven by modern science by transmission of television, by which forms or photographs of one place are transmitted to another place by the action of the ethereal element. That's a really powerful point. That is very nicely explained here. This verse is the potential basis of great scientific research work. Ain't it the truth, brother? For it explains how subtle forms are generated from the ethereal element, what their characteristics and actions are, and how the tangible elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth, are manifested from the subtle form. Mental activities or psychological actions of thinking, feeling, and willing are also activities on the platform of ethereal existence. The statement in Bhagavad Gita that the mental situation at the time of death is the basis of the next birth is also corroborated in this verse. Mental existence transforms into tangible form as soon as there is an opportunity due to contamination or development of the gross elements from subtle form. Thoughts?
No, you?
Yeah. I mean, the first part, yeah, I think I really need to sit with it and be with it. But I really love this idea. Prabhupada uses it often. Now remember, when Srila Prabhupada was writing this purports, it was in probably when the 3rd canto, early 70s. Television, I mean, I guess by the time I remember watching television, there were colored TVs. I guess they started to come around in the 60s. But television was still a relatively new thing. And now, in modern times, when we talk about what's going around in the ether, people are WhatsApping, Facebooking, messaging, sending stuff, hotspotting, so much stuff is happening in the ether. People are sending pictures of, we're sending this video right now, in one sense you could say, through the ether. The camera is picking up the visual through the ether and recording it, and then we're going to send it, and it's going to go all over the place. Now you might say it's going by fiber optic, but we're using Wi-Fi, to do so many things. So it's really far out that in the ether is holding all this stuff. How? Where? But we don't think, we're just saying, you just stick it on Wi-Fi and send it over. But there's a lot of stuff actually going on that for sure we really do not understand. And here the Bhagavatam is describing and explaining these things in its almost most basic and simple form for us to really start to think about what is actually happening. Now, of course, some people understand that science, but yeah, I think it's intriguing myself.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay. Text 35. From ethereal existence, which evolves from sound, the next transformation takes place under the impulse of time, and thus the subtle element touch and thence the ear and sense of touch become prominent. Purport. In the course of time, when the subtle forms are transformed into gross forms, they become the objects of touch. The objects of touch and the tactile sense also develop after this evolution in time. Sound is the first sense object to exhibit material existence, and from the perception of sound, touch perception evolves, and from touch perception, the perception of sight. That is the way of the gradual evolution of our perceptive objects.
Thoughts? Woman, a few words today.
Yeah, no, just like I said before, when it gets, we all get drawn or yeah, it doesn't draw me in. That sounds, and I don't mean that in an offensive way, and I don't, Bhagavatam is Bhagavatam, but I don't have, obviously, an intellectual capacity. It feels like a tsunami or something.
I was going to say, it feels like we're about to get hit by a hurricane.
Jeepers.
Tornado. So,
yeah.
I think it's incredibly, what was the word I used a minute ago?
Tactile. Did you? What did he say? Can you remember?
Anyone remembers? Yeah, anyway. I think it's intriguing.
Intriguing, that's it.
Yes, it's tactile. Textile. I think it's very intriguing. It warrants thought, because now what it's saying is that from the ethereal, which evolves sound, which you're hearing right now, sound, the next transformation that takes place is touch. So we're feeling right now the wind, the air, and for there to be touch, the air is created, and the sense of touch or the skin.
Right.
So this is, I just think it's very intriguing. I like this situation. So we first hear and then we're feeling. So I'm feeling very cold and wet.
Yeah.
And it's starting to rain.
It's raining.
So we're going to go. I wanted to answer that question. I'm going to do it real quick.
Oh my days. I'm going to put my jacket on.
Hare Krishna, how is the conscience of children clean when they carry karma from their previous life? So a child's conscience, in one sense, is clean because they haven't developed enough. Now that there must be far out weather here. So a child's conscience is clean in the sense that they do carry karma from their previous life. That's how and why they take birth in a specific situation. But the conscience is still clean because it's covered by the body of a child. The child can't actually act in any way, and also the child doesn't experience karmic, doesn't create any new karma as a child because it's not responsible for itself. In fact, the parents experience the karma for the child, which we, parents see. They experience it. The child does something, they get the reaction for it because it's under their care. But the conscience, specifically the question is the conscience. The conscience is clean. Now the reason it took me so long is because I asked a few devotees and I was trying to find where is there a kind of specific shastric answer. And I think it's going to be covered later in this third chapter because Lord Kapila Dev, in the third canto rather, because Lord Kapila Dev begins speaking about the formation of the child within the womb. And when he does that, he talks about the conscience and consciousness and things like that. So, the principle I've given already, but Shastrik is going to come later, so you have to keep tuning in. All right, thank you all very much. The rain stopped just long enough for me to answer the question. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.